What's up, Tsla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the broader markets, and break down some big news that came out that's very important and what you should be watching for as time goes on. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. Anyways, as far as Tesla's going, we predicted that Tesla would test $300 in my video yesterday, and that's what happened today. And the question is, will Tesla continue this uptrend or will Tesla get a big rejection? Of course, it depends a lot on the news that's coming out, but so far there's a lot of optimism with what President Trump is saying alongside many of his important officials. So, as far as Tesla's going, if you look at the 4 hour time frame, we have this big gap to fill up here. If Tesla gets back above this resistance, which is going to be around that 304 area tomorrow, the 20 EMA and the 4 hour time frame, if we break 304 and hold above it, I think there's potential to try to fill this gap back up towards 312. But if Tesla goes the opposite direction and loses 292, there's going to be a risk of us turning down quite a bit as well. We had a nice bounce move today, and I think that whether Tesla sees a bigger move up or not also depends on what happens with the news involving Tesla and the news about the markets, which is why I want to break down things. So, just to be very frank, the market's very choppy, but Tesla was outperforming the market to some extent, despite the fact that William Blair gave Tesla a downgrade of a market performance rating. They used to say that Tesla would likely outperform the market. Now they're saying it's going to be performing equally with the market. That's a bit of a downgrade. Looking at our overall volume profile, you guys could also see that there's a lot of interest at that 295 area. That's where we saw a lot of buyers trying to defend. Now, on top of this, when you come back over here, you'll see that our price price ratio is still dipping on Tesla. So it's not as strong as different phases. There were times when Tesla was running really hard compared to the markets, and other times where it's been a little bit more quiet. We're in a more quiet phase right now as the market is choppy, but Tesla's been a little bit weak ever since we had, a lot of the feud between Elon Musk and President Trump, and a lot of talk about Elon Musk starting his political party. Now, keep in mind that when it comes to seasonality, historically, Wednesdays tend to be green about 48% of the time, and we tend to see more volatility at 10 a.m., so keep that in mind. July also tends to be a more neutral month for Tesla. So, what's going on with Elon Musk? We're seeing a lot of criticism for Elon about how some analysts think that Elon Musk should step down as Tesla's CEO. He should step down from being CEO, and he's getting lots of criticism. However, I just want to say that we it wouldn't really make sense to get rid of him because even when he was involved in Doge, it's not like Tesla completely collapsed. Okay. I know their sales have slowed down in Europe, but at the same time, they've made a lot of progress at developing their robotaxi. So I don't think it's really fair to say that, at least yet. And then we also have to give Musk some time. I know Tesla's going through a hard time, but there's a lot of optimism about the expansion of the robotaxi plans and the growth to come when it comes to their overall sectors out there. So I know that right now, Musk wants to start another political party. He's very involved in politics, but let's just see how well Tesla does during earnings and give him some more chances. I wouldn't necessarily give up on him. He is, once again, one of the greatest CEOs we've ever had, one of the greatest CEOs of all time. And I think he deserves a lot of credit instead of more criticism. Do I not like the idea of him starting a political party? Well, it could benefit America if things do get done. But as the CEO of Tesla and as a Tesla investor, it's not the best of news for us because once again, we want him to be more involved with things. But if he could do his job, he of all people could do multiple things at once. And I still think that Tesla's future will be fine. And we'll just have to see how well Tesla and Elon Musk perform when it comes to earnings and such. So we'll give Elon Musk some time on that. He deserves all the credit he gets. He's a great leader. He helps the Tesla team a lot. Tesla's still doing fantastic, and their sales were not too bad, although it's a slight decrease compared to what we saw last year during the second quarter. It's not the worst ever, right? We still technically were very close to expectations. Now, there was some news that came out. Elon Musk did repost this. I'm not really hearing him say as much about Tesla recently, but he said that first your Tesla comes to pick you up, then it drives you where you need to go, all on its own under your supervision. So that's some very, very cool things about them. FSD is so advanced to the point where we are seeing the vehicles drive themselves, and now they could actually, be able to deliver themselves. So I think it's very, very cool, and that could be very, very useful for Tesla as well. Now, another factor involving Tesla would be the potential trade deals that could be coming, and I think that could also affect Tesla to some extent. Tesla does depend on outsourcing to a small extent. I think about 25% of their products does come overseas, at least for what they sell in the US. And when it comes to them moving forward, that's why I think it's important to pay attention to geopolitics to some extent. Now, historically, After an election, the market tends to be very bullish during the month of July. But once we get closer to like August, we do tend to see things slow down a bit in that August to September period. So keep that in mind, at least for the market as a whole. And then on top of this, I just wanted to talk about President Trump and what he's been doing. So President Trump said some very important things. I think this will be affecting Tesla to some extent. So as you guys know, he announced his reciprocal tariffs back in April. That caused the market to sell off quite a bit. He delayed them by 90 days, and the 90-day deadline was on July 9th, which would have been tomorrow. But then he signed an executive order to basically postpone that, and now countries have until August 1st to make these deals. He has announced some tariffs on Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, Kazakhstan, and many other countries, ranging from 25 to 40%. But for now, we've been hearing him say just a couple of things about that. But he did say this just recently. He said that as per letters sent to various countries yesterday, in addition to letters that will be sent today, tomorrow, and for the next short period of time, tariffs will be or they will start being paid on August 1st, 2025. There has been no change to this date, and there will be no change. In other words, all money will be due and payable starting August 1st, 2025. No extensions will be granted. Thank you for your attention. So he's telling us that he doesn't want to back down from August 1st. And I think that's what could cause a lot of volatility in the markets. So I do want to warn you guys about August. I do think the market might see some kind of pullback when we get very close to August. But for now, before that happens, before we do see some kind of pullback move, it is still possible that Tesla and the market try to bounce if it gets some good news. So for the more immediate term, I am still in favor of consolidation or even upside. But for the medium term, for like the next 3 weeks out, I think there might be some kind of pullback coming. So I hope that's as clear as possible. Short term is bullish, medium term is still kind of like more bearish. I'm going to explain exactly why that is. So why does the short term have some optimism and some potential for upside? Well, the good news is that Lutnick and Bessent and many other important figures are talking about how there could be some big deals coming involving the tariffs because they're very optimistic about India. They're also very optimistic about a lot of announcements to come in the next 48 hours. When it comes to China, China actually threatens to retaliate against countries that tend to disrupt their supply chains and prioritize the US and kind of exclude China. So they've been saying that. That's a very, very big claim by them. However, nonetheless, this is still big news, and we're going to see what ends up happening as time goes on. But China have said that they're still open to negotiations. President Trump said the same thing. President Trump also said, and this is the thing that could really help Tesla and the markets, he said that there could be a trade agreement coming very, very soon within days with the European Union. Once again, he is reiterating that he wants to impose higher tariffs, but things could change if we start to see the EU announce a big deal. If there's a big deal that comes up between the US and the Europeans, that could be very, very big. So watch for that. Also, when it comes to India and the US, Lutnick and many other important figures are saying that there could be a big deal announced tonight involving the US and India, maybe even tomorrow. We'll see about that if they do end up announcing this trade deal, which is going to be heavily involved in agriculture, dairy, and other products like that. That could be very, very beneficial as well. Finally, when it comes to Japan, they're once again looking to be striking a deal as well with the US because of the fact that they have higher tariffs if they don't really do that. As far as the market goes, keep in mind that there's not really much for earnings until Thursday when we have Delta Airlines and Levi's. And last but not least, on Wednesday, it's going to be July 9th, which is tomorrow. There's just very minor crude data, but then at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the FOMC minutes, so keep that in mind. Anyways, as far as Tesla's going, we're looking a little bit more bullish. Now, it depends, though, if we could hold above this key support. Going into the 4-hour time frame is trying to rebound to some extent, but we're technically range bound between 303 and 292. So I would not be surprised if we start kind of consolidating like this, just like this, before it tries to break past 303 to 304. That's going to be where this 20 EMA is. If we break this, then we're looking for that gap fill back up towards the 312s. So are we going to consolidate? I think we might see some consolidation, but there's potential to bounce if we get some good trade deals with the US and India, the US and Europe, and good news for Tesla. We could see some kind of bounce. If we get bad news, you want to see us fill at 292 to continue to dump. It could go either way, but I'm hoping we try to get some kind of rebound move, some consolidation or rebound. If we get some good news with these European trade deals, that could be very, very impactful for many companies out there. For SPY, things are a little bit more different for SPY. We're also consolidating right here, but notice that we're also trying to make higher highs and higher lows. And the reason I'm talking about SPY right now is because it's also very tight and there could be a big expansion volatility. If we lose 617, we're going to look for SPY to dump back down. Okay, so if 617 fails us, we're looking for a move back down towards 615. But if we could hold above 622, then we're looking for an attempt to start pushing to fill this gap again, and we could be looking for one more pump. But keep in mind, even if we do pump a bit on SPY, I think this is going to be very temporary, and we're eventually going to be forming a top. And once the top is in, we're looking for a pullback move to be starting, taking us right back down. So please keep that in mind, especially as time goes on. That's what we are anticipating, at least for the time being. So why do I talk about SPY? Well, Tesla is known for kind of following the market to some extent, right? If you look at our different charts out there, we tend to see that. But my guts tells me that Tesla may do the same thing, as we may consolidate like this and then eventually start pushing higher if we break past 305 to fill this gap up here. So what do I think is going to happen? I think we're going to likely consolidate, and then there could be some upside potential if we break resistance. So watch and see how things end up going as time goes on. That's going to be very key for what ends up happening. But I think that Tesla could be following this trend. Although the daily is kind of indecisive, we're still waiting to see what happens with these trade deals. If we get some good trade deals, there could be a nice bounce. And also, FOMC minutes comes out tomorrow at 2 p.m. That could also help the markets. The Fed have been saying they want to keep rates the same, but they're waiting to see if we get a surge in inflation. So we're going to see how that ends up going. Can that be another bullish catalyst that could also benefit Tesla? So we'll see. I'll keep you guys updated if we get some good news or not. Looking at the QQQ, we're kind of indecisive on the daily. But if you look at the 4 hour, we're actually holding support at this 20 EMA. Now, if we lose 550, I think we dumped about 546 just in case that support fails us. So keep those levels in mind in case we lose 550. We could be dumping back down towards 546, and we'll see if we bounce off that. But if we're bullish, you want to see us break 555. If that breaks, we have a gap to fill in a test of these highs all over again. So my gut is telling me that we're making higher highs and higher lows. There's a higher high here, higher low, higher high, and higher low. And we could be favoring once again a retest of this high here. So we're going to see how it ends up going. On the QQQ, as we're trying to uptrend, this may continue to push higher back up towards this 555 area to try to fill this gap. And we're going to see if we reject or not off of this. So be very, very careful. But I would like to see us bounce. I would like to see that if we get some good news about these trade deals involving the Europeans and with India, if we get some kind of bounce, it's going to be likely a topping process. And once the top is in, we're going to be looking for a big rejection very soon after that. For the IWM, we look more bullish. Now, if we end up losing essentially this 220 area, we're looking for a dump back down. But as long as we hold this, we're going to continue to favor and attempt to fill this gap towards 223. My gut tells me that this is going to likely continue to uptrend as we're seeing some more buyers stepping in. And 223 is going to be a nice potential target to fill that gap. I think that we might be looking for a temporary bounce so long as we don't lose 220. And if we do try to break out higher, as we try to see this like inverse head and shoulders pan out, when you really like zoom out, you guys could see it. If it does pan out and we do go a little bit higher, could that be the sign that we're about to form a top right here? And then this is going to reject back down to start filling a lot of those gaps. That's also another possibility. But for now, when you look at the chart, we're basically trying to hold this green trend line. That's going to be our 20 EMA. As long as that holds, we're going to be doing a fantastic job. For ES, we're doing a good job here. If we end up breaking past 6280, we're looking for 6300. If we end up losing basically 6250, we're looking for a dip back down. So that being said, I anticipate there's going to be some sideways price action like this. And we're going to see if we bounce higher or not. So give this the time it needs. So be very, very careful, at least nonetheless. We're going to see if this rejects or not. So be very, very patient. With that being said, I think that it's very important for us to be very patient with this. I think we consolidate and try to bounce and watch and see how things end up going from here. On NQ, if we lose 22,800, we're looking for a dump back down. But if we break 22,900, we're looking for basically a bigger push. I think the odds favor consolidation and attempt to push to 23,000. We're going to see how it ends up going from here. And we're going to see if we end up breaking resistance or not. It is possible we try to go a little bit higher if we get some good deals. As long as we don't lose 22,780, an Indian deal, European deal, etc., that could help us push. But then that's when we're going to be forming a final top. And I do think there's going to be a more substantial pullback once we get to the August period. Looking at Bitcoin, we're bullish. We have a nice accumulation, inverse head and shoulders, and we're currently favoring an attempt to push back up towards 110,000. So watch to see if we break this or not, if we get a rejection. So please keep that in mind. As far as Tesla goes, like I said, we're range bound right now, but there is potential to go higher if we keep on making higher lows like this. So we're trying to make higher lows, which is a good sign. There could be some consolidation in an attempt to push the 305 plus to fill that gap. So give it the time it needs. For Nvda, if we end up losing basically 158, we're looking for a dump back down. As long as we hold this, we're going to be favoring 162.5 or above, and I think that's going to be very key for how we end up moving. So watch and see how things end up going and be very, very patient, at least nonetheless. For Aapl, If we end up losing basically 206, we're looking for a dip back down. As long as you hold 210, we're looking for an attempt to push towards 214. My gut tells me this is going to consolidate and attempt to be pushing for 214 if we hold support. So far, I think we're doing a good job and we do favor the upwards direction. Watch to see if we get a rejection after that. I do think we could still bounce a bit as we're trying to hold support. Netflix, however, looks a bit more bearish. We're not holding above 1280. We could be favoring a move back down towards 1250 if that trend continues. MicroStrategy looks a bit more bullish. We're trying to hold 396 as long as that holds. We're favoring 400 all over again and some consolidation. On Celsius, we're also range bound between 45.8 and 45.18, kind of going back and forth like this. And I think we favor consolidation, and we'll see if we break down or not. For others out there, we also happen to have a little bit more bullish potential right here. If we end up losing this big support right over here, at this 48 area, we're looking for a dip back down. But as long as that holds, we're going to be favoring 50 as our potential target. Palantir looks bullish. We're making higher lows right here. As long as we don't lose 136, we're favoring 142.5 or above. Rivian looks more bullish. As long as we don't lose 13.13, we're favoring 13.41. For SoFi, we're making higher lows right here. As long as we don't end up losing basically this 18.7 area, we're going to be favoring an attempt for 21. For AMD, we have a nice double bottom here. As long as we don't lose basically 135, we're favoring an attempt for 142. For ARM, we're making lower highs here. We're kind of rejecting. So long as we don't end up losing basically 145, this is looking pretty good right here. This got a rejection, so we could be dipping to 144. It looks a little bit weak. For PayPal, we might be retesting essentially 74.46. If that doesn't hold, we're looking for a dip lower to 72. We're going to see if we bounce. For Coinbase, we have an inverse head and shoulders. As long as you don't lose 352, we're actually favoring an attempt for basically 362 plus. For Amazon, we have a double top here. If we lose 218, we're looking for a dip back down. If we break 221, we're looking for a bounce. So we're going to see if we end up dipping all the way down to 215. For Meta, we have a nice accumulation here. So long as we don't lose 720, we're going to be looking for an attempt for basically 728. If we lose 714, we're going to be turning back down. So I favor the upwards direction. For Google, we have a double top here. If we end up losing support, we could be dipping back down towards 173. And for Microsoft, we have a nice accumulation, so we could be looking for an attempt for 500 all over again. GJT looks more bullish. So long as we don't end up losing 18.6, we're favoring 19.5. And the VIX is looking kind of weak here as we come back down to fill this gap, so give this the time it needs. We could go either way to see if the VIX rejects or not. It's kind of indecisive. Same thing with the 10-year and the dollar. We're just waiting to see. So as far as tomorrow goes, let's see if we get some big trade deals between the US and India, the US and the European Union. Can they help the market bounce to some extent? It's very possible. And also, we have the FOMC minutes tomorrow at 2 p.m., so expect some volatility. So keep all of that in mind. With that being said, I really appreciate you guys so much for listening. I think that there is potential for Tesla to try to bounce here if we get some good news. But of course, I can't make promises about trade policy because you never know what President Trump is going to say. I can't always predict everything he'll say, so anything could really happen. But based off what I'm saying, what makes a lot of sense is that he might not be announcing a ton of these new tariffs right now. He might kind of delay on that, and he might be more focused on these deals. Like today, he said that there should be a trade agreement with the EU. He also said there should be an agreement with India coming soon, maybe tonight, if not tomorrow. So if we get a big announcement involving the US and India, having a trade deal, if the Europeans have a trade deal with the US, that could also be bullish, and that could help the market bounce to some extent, at least temporarily, right? And I think that could also benefit Tesla if we start to see some more buyers stepping in. Now, if the whole market bounces, of course, that could drag Tesla up. But then keep in mind, I do anticipate some downside for the month of August, at least for the broader markets. And that could be a bit more negative for Tesla. So I still want to give you guys a warning about August. The closer we get to August, the more likely it is to get that medium term sell off. So for the medium term, I am concerned about us forming a top and coming back down to see a substantial pullback. For the short term, for tomorrow, I still lean like a little bit more in favor of bulls. I think we consolidate and maybe try to bounce off some potential trade deals. So we'll see about that. Hopefully, we get some big updates and we get those deals that can help the market to some extent. That's what I'm anticipating, at least for now, for a temporary move up. Anyways, that's it for this one, guys. I thank you all so much for listening. So please enjoy the rest of your guys' days. I'll be back with another upload tomorrow before market open. So until then, watch out for my video and I'll see you guys very soon. Thank you for listening, guys. Have a very blessed rest of your guys' days, nights, or evenings, wherever you guys are around the world. And once again, I'll be back tomorrow before market open to talk about how the charts are looking, to discuss what's going on, and also break down what's going on with the FOMC minutes. Until then, Tesla to the moon, because the long term is still very bright. There's so much upside potential for the long term for Tesla, but the short term does remain volatile and nuanced because of all these external factors. I'll see you guys soon, and peace out.